So, you guys are wondering where the Rise of the Beast video is. Well, I decided ultimately not to do a review because it would just be too short. I'm going to sum up my thoughts here quickly. Scourge is just okay as an antagonist. The Beasts are horrible because they don't show up until the last 20 minutes. Unicron is a joke because he's not even in it at all. The human characters are horrible. Joby Harold can't write a film to save his life. G.I. Joe, it's interesting, but honestly, I don't think if they continue to hire writers like this that they're going to have a good cinematic universe, if that's what you want to call it. Bumblebee is absolutely nerfed, and it's horrible, and the designs are horrible. Just keep Travis Knight's designs, but no, Stephen Capel Jr. just needs to screw it up, and also, Joby Harold makes sure that black and brown people are victims. Good. Now that we got that out of the way, I thought it'd be interesting instead to take a look back on the Transformers over the years and do a ranking video, which I haven't done in like 6 years. We are going to today rank all of the Bayverse main villains, and I've got a lot to say about this. And yes, I'm going to include Soundwave and Shockwave, but not Starscream. Hate on me all you like, I don't care.
You dare to strike your god!
So, starting off at number 10 here, dead last, we have Quintessa from Transformers The Last Knight. Now, this is possibly the worst Transformers film next to Revenge of the Fallen, and Quintessa is just the worst. It's supposed to be interesting how it's like, oh, she's like a god or whatever, and she like created the Transformers or whatever, but like she's so small, and I get that she's powerful, but all she really does is make Optimus Prime evil and then just send him off. And I'm not including Nemesis Prime here because that was just too garbage, and he would be dead last, but because it's Optimus, I'm not going to include it here. Also, I can't remember what it is she did. I think she was impaled or something at the end, and then she came back and was just human somehow. It was really weird, and then that plot line never continued because Unicron was like rising from the earth, and like that's all I can really remember about The Last Knight, which is really says a lot about how bad that film was.
I am Unicron.
Coming in at number 9, we have Unicron. Now, Unicron would be dead last were it not for Rise of the Beasts, because in The Last Knight all he was a bunch of horns coming out of the earth, and they were going to do that storyline where he like is the earth and he's inside and they got to stop him. And honestly, Transformers Prime did it much better. That's a far superior show, and I would rather watch that than Rise of the Beasts. All Unicron does is just send Scourge to do his bidding. Unicron, I think himself, is only in like 3 scenes. One quick scene at the beginning, once in the middle, and then not till the very end. No offense to the voice actor. I think he does good with what he has, but he's no Orson Welles. This guy, you can tell he wants to do the part well, but he just can't, and it's the writer's fault because he frickin' just reduced Unicron to 3 scenes when it should have been that he was the big bad, and it was just really disappointing that he didn't get any screen time whatsoever, and it was just all given to Scourge instead.
Only a Prime can defeat me.
Coming in at number 8, we have the Fallen. Now, the reason he's only so high is because he's voiced by the great Tony Todd. Now, he's voicing Venom in Spider-Man 2 coming up, and I'm really looking forward to that. But you can tell Tony Todd is giving it his all here, despite what the script says. All the way back in 2009, there was a writer's strike, and that's why Revenge of the Fallen is kind of crap. That's why any 2009 film is kind of crap, actually. This guy, all he does really is just sit in a chair and wait for Optimus to die, and says, "Oh yes, I'm free. Only a Prime can defeat me." And he kind of is like he's advertised to be the main villain. And I hated him because he makes Megatron take a back seat in the sequel. And Megatron survives this one, and he takes even more of a back seat in the next one, but we'll get to that one. It seems after the first one, Megatron just kept taking back seats to these new main villains, quote-unquote. And Revenge of the Fallen, all he does is like teleport around one time, set up a device, and then gets killed by Optimus. Seriously though, what is it with Bayverse Optimus and ripping people's faces off?
Females, I thought they were extinct.
Coming in at number 7, we have got Shockwave. Now, despite Dark of the Moon being my absolute favorite Transformers film, Shockwave was absolutely nerfed and wasted. He has 1 or 2 lines spoken in English. The second one is barely audible. He shows up, attacks Chernobyl, says a line, runs away, and then disappears for the majority, and then doesn't show up until the very end. And then he's defeated by a parachute, and then Optimus just, like, absolutely destroys him. There was such wasted potential. Shockwave could have been the main villain. Even Megatron is afraid of him. Honestly, they got everything right except for what he does in the script, because they got his design right. His voice is great for when he does talk. He looks super cool, and he just is all around a badass when he fights, but it's ridiculous because he doesn't do anything other than get his driller bot to attack Chernobyl, and then he just gets defeated by a parachute. Once again, the guys paratroopers, I think that's what they're called, they jump out of the plane and it lands on Shockwave. He's blinded, and then Optimus comes in and freaking kills him, and that's all he does. And it's a wasted potential of a great character, and I'm really upset about it.
Why can't we make what we want to make the way we want to make it?
Coming in at number 6, we have got Galvatron. Now, when I heard that Galvatron was going to be in Age of Extinction, I was really excited because Galvatron has and always will be one of my favorites. But literally, he doesn't show up until at least about the last 30 minutes, I think. He has one cool fight with Optimus, but
You have no soul. That is why I have no fear.
but then takes a backseat when Lockdown shows up to just basically spout a bunch of exposition at Prime, then he runs away. Say what you will about Age of Extinction, I think that they got the villains right, if anything. Given that he was created by those human people, it was an interesting concept. And then the way he transforms as well, it's beautiful. Just the way he transforms, he dematerializes and rematerializes. And this could have been great because it's basically the reincarnation of Megatron, but then once again, he needs to take a backseat to Lockdown. And it's really disappointing because Galvatron, I think, is only in 2 scenes and he doesn't speak that much. But props to Frank Welker for coming back and voicing him.
Soundwave superior. Autobots inferior.
At number 5, we have my favorite Decepticon, Soundwave. Now, honestly, it was a weird creative choice just to have Frank Welker do the Dr. Claw voice without applying the vocoder, because how they did it was, well, Frank Welker just did the Dr. Claw voice, and then they applied a vocoder to it. But for some reason, Michael Bay decided to have him without it, which is whatever. He still sounds menacing enough, but in Revenge of the Fallen, he shows up for 2 scenes, and he's just on a satellite the whole time. He doesn't actually battle anything. And then in Dark of the Moon, he just is working for Patrick Dempsey's character, which is the worst part of that film. And he just gets killed by Bumblebee after killing Q. And Laserbeak kind of just does everything for him, and Laserbeak takes up an unnecessary amount of screen time. And I'm really disappointed that, one, he didn't have the vocoder voice, because that's what makes Soundwave, and also because he was super small. He just turned into a Mercedes who was mostly there for product placement, and he wasn't in that many battle scenes. The one battle scene that he is in is when he dies by Bumblebee, because he just holds a bunch of people hostage and is on a satellite the whole time. It's really disappointing, and they did him justice, at least in Bumblebee, with the design and everything, and they applied the vocoder, so that's why he's so high on the list. But now we're into the top 4, so let's see.
Call me Elf one more time.
Coming in at number 4, we have Scourge. Now, Scourge is just mid as a villain, but honestly, he doesn't have that much competition compared to the others. Peter Dinklage, I think, does a great job voicing him. He sounds menacing, but for some reason, I don't know why he has a rivalry with Optimus. I mean, he does seemingly kill Bumblebee, but then once Bumblebee comes back, Optimus still hates him for some reason. I mean, he does want to destroy the planet, but that's Unicron. So I don't understand why Optimus Primal and Scourge don't have a super big rivalry, which they should have, because Scourge killed Primal's mentor in like the beginning or whatever. And Scourge just is supposed to be like indestructible because Unicron has the armor, but then he immediately just gets pummeled along with his 2 other guys by Optimus Prime, and he gets his mask ripped off, and Prime like basically shoves him against a lava thing. Scourge is mid at best, but he's much better than any of the other people we've tackled so far, and I really like Peter Dinklage's voice performance because he does a great job. So those are the only reasons that Scourge is so high on the list, but let's get into the top 3 now.
Beneath this mask, there is more than flesh. Beneath this mask, there is an idea, Mr. Creedy. And ideas are bulletproof.
At number 3, can you believe it? We have Megatron. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash for these top 3, because the reason Megatron is on here is because he's barely in the first movie, despite being the main villain. He doesn't show up until 2 hours into the movie, and he's just in the final battle, kind of. And the other Decepticons kind of are just the main. I would argue that the main villain is kind of Frenzy, because he kind of sets the whole thing in motion. But it's Megatron. He does have a fight with Optimus, but then he dies, which isn't supposed to happen. Because if they had him survive and then he shows up in the sequel, fine. But when he does show up in the sequel, as I was saying earlier, he takes a back seat to the Fallen, and he survives, and he gets his face ripped off, and he just disappears. And then in Dark of the Moon, he just sits around and then takes a back seat to Sentinel Prime, who made a deal with him, and then he fights Optimus for a grand total of 10 seconds before getting his head ripped off, which is ridiculous. And in the original script, apparently, Megatron and Optimus made a truce, saying that, oh, I won't attack Earth anymore, or whatever, and he would just go back to Cybertron, and that would have been great, but money's got a money, and then they made Age of Extinction and blah, 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 blah. And it's really disappointing to see Megatron just take a backseat to these other just mid, I guess. I mean, one of them's horrible and one of them's great. Other, like, main villain type people, he just takes a back seat. And this is Megatron you're talking about, when it really sucks that he does. And he takes a back seat. I should mention, in the last night, he only has 5 minutes of screen time. He's at the beginning and then not till the very end where he dies again. And he takes a back seat to Quintessa and Nemesis Prime, which, well, that movie's horrible and I don't want to talk about it anymore. So let's get into number 2.
Live long and prosper.
Coming in at number 2, this is sure to be controversial, is Sentinel Prime. Leonard Nimoy does an amazing vocal performance as him. His rivalry with Optimus Prime is great, and just seeing an Autobot defect to the Decepticons is a gut punch right there, because this guy is supposed to be legendary, and he's supposed to be, like, he's the guy who taught Optimus Prime, so it's like, holy god, this guy's gonna be great, he's gonna fight, and then he becomes the bad guy, and it's like, holy what? And I think Sentinel took up a bit too much screen time, though. That's my one problem I have with him. And Megatron takes a backseat, so does Soundwave, so does Shockwave, so does Starscream. All of those other guys just take a backseat to Sentinel, and, like, it's not a problem to have Sentinel as a main villain. My other problem is that, well, this is more of an Optimus problem, is that, like, Megatron dies, and then Optimus basically just kills Sentinel in cold blood, which, like, Sentinel was trying to kill Prime the whole time. And honestly, Optimus Prime wouldn't do that. That's not Optimus Prime. He would have let him live, but, like, just kind of captured him. He doesn't kill, unless it's Megatron, obviously, but he just kills him, and it's like, oh, you betrayed yourself. That's a horrible Optimus Prime. I'm sorry, but it's skewed a bit, and, like, a lot of his screen time could have been cut. Or they could have replaced all of Patrick Dempsey's scenes with Soundwave and or Shockwave. So that's my problem with it.
Every galaxy I've traveled, all you species are the same. You all think you're the center of the universe. You have no idea.
Coming in at number 1, this is sure to be controversial, is Lockdown here. So I said Galvatron took a backseat to him, but rightly so. Lockdown is probably the coolest main villain next to Megatron in the Bayverse here. Despite the horrible story of Age of Extinction, the horrible human characters, Lockdown is absolutely a bright spot. You can tell that this guy is super powerful because he kills Ratchet within the first 20 minutes, and it's like, oh, this guy. And this guy, what makes him interesting is that he's not an Autobot and he's not a Decepticon. He's neutral, and he's a bounty hunter going around the universe And I like his line where he says, "You all think you're the center of the universe. You have no idea." And you find out that it's obvious that he was working for Quintessa, but just before, the mystery surrounding him and that he's a bounty hunter that like collects a bunch of like trophies, if you will, from people he's defeated. It's super cool. It was such a cool idea. I wish they would have kept him around. He kind of does devolve into just a generic villain by the end because he leaves and then it's like, oh wait, Optimus is gone, I gotta go back and get him type thing, and then he tries to kill him again. He does kick Optimus's ass 2 times before Optimus finally impales him and slices upward so that Lockdown just dies. But if they kept him around, and maybe he wouldn't be working for Quintessa. I don't know what the original idea was, but I'm upset that they killed him off after one film, because this guy was absolutely great. His sound design is amazing. His vehicle mode is great. His voice actor, Mark Ryan, splendid job there. And it's just everything you could want in a Transformers game. He's just so freaking cool. That's why he's #1. I'm sure lots of you have stuff to say about it, so say it in the comments. Maybe I'll reply, maybe I won't. But until next time, I'm the Purple Man, signing off.